It's time for a writing exercise because writers need to understand the tools in our boxes as much as a carpenter needs to understand theirs. Like a painter who practices breaking down color mixing, or a musician who plays with scales. We're writers and we need to know and understand how certain tools work so we can use them. But more importantly, we need to understand them so we can break the rules. This exercise is a way for you to practice writing POVs, but also giving you a chance to play around with ones you might not be comfortable with. More importantly, it's a chance to get better at the ones you are comfortable with. What do we always say on this channel? Don't only practice when you write. Correct. Working on your craft only when you write your novels, short stories, etc., is not going to give you a chance to hone your skill like an artist spending time practicing eyes, hands, and feet. Many hours have been spent on me drafting and illustrating eyes and hands and back in the illustration days. Because by practicing, when you practice writing a scene from multiple perspectives, you'll gain a deeper understanding of how each point of view shapes the reader's experience. But more importantly, how you tell the story through the characters and their experiences emotionally and the choices they make. So today, this video will go over an exercise aimed at giving you a chance to choose between creating emotional depth, complexity, or simply discovering which POV best fits your narrative. Now, point of view exercises, developing nuanced perspectives. Honestly, choosing the right POV for you, right? So, point of view or POV is one of the most powerful tools a writer can have in their arsenal between immersive writing, show, sometimes tell, etc., understanding positions. This is another strong tool because it is one of the few things you need when you write. You need a POV, whether it's first, second, third limited, third omniscient, whatever the case is, you need a POV. You have to choose one. So, choosing the right POV affects not only what information is available to the reader through the characters, but also how they connect with the characters and experience the world you've created and allow your characters to play with. This particular exercise will help you develop a more nuanced and unique way of presenting or approaching POVs. And we're going to focus on writing a scene from multiple perspectives and analyzing the differences in those versions when we get to the example. However, let's do a quick explanation of each POV. And I'm sure you know what they are, but we're just going to touch on the three most popular, which is first person, third limited, and third omniscient. Just real quick, first person is you've heard it before when we say I, we, me, myself. It provides a direct, but this also allows us to have a direct insight into the character's thoughts, their feelings, their experiences, even their opinions, and their personality is immediate because it is what the narrative is being written through. So even if it's not dialogue and it's not thought, the narrative, like the prose, are written in the POV of the character. You know, another night and going through this stupid place. Look at this idiot talking to me, telling me what he does. They don't know what they're talking about. Like, that's the kind of narrative you can write. It could be very like train of thought almost. Can be. It's an option. Third person limited, which is pretty common in fantasy. The POV is the he, she, they, right? Okay. But more, it creates a little bit more distance, and you don't have direct access to their immediate thoughts. You can, but it's not told through that character's thoughts and ideas. So the narrative is more neutral. It's just kind of telling what's going on, and then occasionally, depending on the POV you're going through, the limited can be, like the narrator can talk about, but they wouldn't have an opinion. Like the narrator wouldn't have an opinion. You know what I'm saying? All right. Oh, and third person omniscient. Omniscient is the same with he, she, and they. However, this is the all-knowing God narrative. It allows the writer to show the thoughts, feelings, and motivations of all the characters, providing a broader view on the story. This POV can offer depth and complexity, but may reduce the intimacy. Yeah, because if we go back to third, remember, like in Game of Thrones, the POV is third person limited. It stays very close to a POV. However, it can jump to another POV for like a passage or something like that with a strong transition. You have to be able to have those good, strong transitions. But the narrator is usually going to stay on that POV, whereas third person omniscient, it'll be all over the place. All right, real time examples. Yeah. Let's do it. Let's do what we came to do. Which are these examples? Yeah, let's share the screen. You gotta share the screen. Let's share the screen. All right, whatever. Let's do it. First person. Okay. All right. Let's just do a room. Let's go, right? Because I'm going to take a quick sip and then we'll start. Oh, wait. Hopefully that doesn't get in the way. If it gets in the way, we'll adjust. All right. Okay. I stepped into the room. I guess I can do a room, but my fear. If you haven't seen the other videos in this day, you do a lot of pounding. Sometimes I just like to just do cliche stuff just to get it out. I don't really want to put a lot of thought into this against my ribs. You know what I'm saying? The thought I want to do is to show you what it is, and I think it's just easy to just get it out. Let's describe the way down on my chest. By the way, logical narrative movement. I stepped into the room. Now we got to clarify how I stepped into it. Well, my fear pounding against my ribs. Oh yeah. Why is that? Why am I fearful? Well, the air heavy. The air heavy. Yeah. I think it's the air. The air heavy. The heavy air. The heavy air way down on my chest. No, I think I'm right here. The air heavy. Oh yeah, just like that. Okay, the air heavy way down on my chest. Because we're down. Okay. The air heavy way down on my chest. I couldn't shake the truth that something was wrong, out of place. Okay. This would be an M dash. All right. Okay, okay. Boop, boop, boop. Now that I'm in the room, let's change the movement to doing something a little bit more in the room. Darting my eyes around. What's up, kitty cat? Darting my eyes around. Hey, too. You want to be on the show today? Darting my eyes around. I scanned every shadow, every corner. There I was. Oh no, there. What is the shadow? There it was. The letter on the table. Addressed to me, Claire. House Largas. Okay. And since we're inside the character, we can do stuff like this. We could be like, great, my fingers wouldn't stop trembling as I reached for it. My mind raced. Analyzing. I can't spell, because spelling is without me. Who could have left it here? Why now? All right, so that's a first person. Now we got to change this into a third person. Mm-hmm. Let's see. We know her name is Claire, right? So Claire. Oh, and I turns into Claire. Claire stepped into the room. Ooh. Her fear pounding against her ribs, the air heavy, weighed down on her chest. Her chest. She couldn't shake the truth that something was wrong, out of place. Darting my eyes. I could do her eyes darted around, or darting her eyes around. She scanned every shadow, every corner. But I could change this. I could go her eyes darted around, scanning every, right? But I guess to keep it in the same style. There it was. Oh. Let's see. There it was. That's definitely first person, so we got to take that out. Then clear as day. A letter on the table. Dressed. A letter on the table. And then we don't need this. Cross the front. Come here. You know you could hang out with me. You could just come up here. Across the front. The envelope. Claire House Oblagas. All right, now we got to take away the commentary, which is like great, right? Her fingers. Trembled. Because, like, wouldn't, like this right here, this great, my fingers wouldn't stop trembling, is commentary on what they're experiencing. So that's why we have to take that out. Her fingers trembled as she reached for it. And then we could actually keep this moving, like her mind racing, analyzing the possibilities. Who could have left it here? Why now? That can stay here. I can stay here. That can stay here. All right. Where was I? Okay. All right. All right. So, why now? Okay. All right. So, and we're going to take this and we're going to make it third person limited. I guess before we, all right, and then I'll go over why they're like that. All right. Let's see. Her fear pounding. And let's make this more commentary from the narrator. As the air grew heavier. Let's just clean it. Heavier with each breath she took. All right, and then this is the thing about third person within the same fluid. Stephen King does this a lot. So we could be like across town. Her brother James. This is like almost, except it's a sister. When when it's like Georgie is like walking on the street, and then it talks about a sister for like a passage. Unaware of the letter Claire was about to find. A letter that could. Oh no, that would change everything. However, this is another example of an M dash. It would make more sense to be like boop boop doo. All right. Now we could be more like somebody is examining what's going on, except for the fact that I don't think I should do it because you don't want to have Claire twice in a row, darting her eyes around. Let's see. Darting her eyes around. Oh, I know what I can do. Her knees growing. Let's just do that. It's more commentary, on the table. She spotted the letter. Sorry, I had to pause the video and play with the cat. So now my face is all messed up. She was just meowing away. As soon as I paused it, she jumped on the table, so then I had to go play with her. So now I got itchy face. All right. There on the table. Fingers trembling as she reached for it. All right. Reach for it. Reach for it. And fancy writing. From the sender. Claire of House Burgess. Filled the front with fancy writing in the hand of its sender. This is a little too much information because Claire in third person limited or first person wouldn't be able to know this information because it could be anyone who wrote the name. You know what I'm saying? It could be anyone who wrote the name, so they wouldn't have that information. And then we could like we could jump to someone else now. So the sender of the letter watched from afar. Satisfied. Oh no, satisfied because it's past tense. Smile with a satisfied smile spreading across his face. Everything Everything was falling into place just as they had planned. All right. So this is obviously almost headhunting, this would definitely be headhunting. All right. So the big difference here is Claire stepped into the room, her fear pounding as the air grew heavier with each breath she took. Across town, her brother James sat in his car, unaware of the letter Claire was about to find, a letter that would change everything. So this is commentary on the experience that Claire is having from the narrator, thinking about the brother, and then darting her eyes around, her unease growing. And there on the table, she spotted the letter. Oh, I don't need to do. Her fingers trembling as she reached for it. Claire of House Blagas filled the front with fancy writing in the hand of its center. And then the logical narrative flow, by the way, because we mentioned sender, that's why I could jump here. Meanwhile, the sender, right? This is commentary from the narrator, but the sender of the letter watched from afar, a satisfying smile spreading across his face. All right, because we're allowed to go into that, what they're feeling. We know that the smile is a satisfied smile, right? But as you can see, this is a little bit more in the character. We could even have it go, why here of all places? I feel like this is a trap set up, design to mess with me. All right, like you could do that. You could add that. That would be its own passage. Right, or I could bring this up and go. Darting my eyes around, and I scanned every shadow, every corner. Nothing. Right. I found it. Right there. The letter on the table addressed to me. Right. So like it becomes more commentary and more part of it and stuff like that. Whereas this third person is sort of explaining what is happening, right? Or has happened because it's past tense. We're allowed to understand a little bit of what Claire is going through, and that is where the air heavy weighed down on her chest. Like we're allowed to know that much because it's third person limited, so it's limited to Claire's experience. So, Claire, next to Jimmy, stepped into the room first, her fear pounding against her ribs. The air heavy weighed down. The air heavy weighed down on her. All right. Presence of her friend directly behind each of her steps. Right. So this is through Claire's experience, even though Jimmy is there. Right. In this, it would be like I stepped into a room. Jimmy, ever brave, followed behind me. My fear pounded against. Oh, my fear pounded against my ribs. The air heavy. It pounded against my ribs. And the air didn't help. It's heavy. Heaviness weighed down on my chest. All right, so like that's what I'm saying. Like you can get more personal with the first person. But this is going to always be just the experience of the character with touches of going inside the head without it actually sitting inside the head. Like, however, if I take this line right here, if I take this line and I wanted to put it into third person, it would go, of all places, this one had to be a trap. They set up designed to mess with her. And the reason this still works in third person limited is because it is sort of like a thought, but not a thought where it would go like this and be like, she thought to herself. Like, I don't have to do that. Like, when you're writing, you don't necessarily have to separate these thoughts. They could be within the narrative. So, of all places, this one had to be a trap, a setup designed to mess with her. And of course, this omniscient just has a lot more play. If we did this, right, we could actually go like, we could, right, of all places, this one was a trap, a setup designed to mess with her. And the big difference is the narrator knows. The narrator knows because they are all knowing. And that is the big difference. Of all places, this was a trap, a setup designed to mess with her. And she knew. She knew it was, but couldn't. But had to keep moving forward. Right? Like, the narrator knows. Okay? So, with that said, why does it matter? Why does it matter? Well, the more you understand how POVs work, the more you can play with them and the more you can utilize them for their purposes. And it helps you decide how much access readers have to the character's thoughts, feelings, and motivations, but more importantly, how much influence the character will have on the narration. All right. The narrative prose are influenced by the POV selected for the character. First person POV is them telling the story, right? Them telling the narrative. So it is greatly influenced by how they are perceiving everything. Great, this guy is going to kill me. And then they're like, oh, hello, can I help you with anything? Because they don't know. They're wrong. It's their perception. So it's influenced by what they can see, hear, feel, and think, and their brain capacity, etc. They don't know anything beyond what they are perceiving. In third person limited, though, the character that you choose to follow in that chapter or that scene or that beat, the narrative would be through their experience, but it wouldn't necessarily be their perception. Okay? So their perception is taken out of the equation because we're not that deep in, but it is their experience. It's what they are experiencing it and how they are experiencing it. When it's omniscient, it has commentary from the narrator. They can go deeply into the truth that characters don't know. For example, it was a trap, but she didn't know. Or it was a trap and she knew it was, but still had to move forward, right? So they have all the intel on everything, and they can even be like, they could be like, if she hadn't, like in that scene, if I was writing it out of nowhere, there could be a line to go, imagine she just decided not to go into the theater that night and meet her friend Jimmy. Like, they can have thoughts like that in omniscient. All right. Final thoughts. Always approach POV with this in mind. What are you trying to tell as a narrative? What is the narrative you're trying to tell? And of the characters, who would tell that narrative the best? And I say that because, again, it is through It is through the characters that the narrative unfolds, or more importantly, the story of the narrative. Because remember, all narratives are made up of plot and story. Plot is what needs to happen, and story is how it unfolds through the emotional experiences and choices of the character. First person is going to be the closest to that and their perspective. Limited will be their experiences and like how they are experiencing and what they're experiencing, right? And then, of course, omniscient is just a free for all. Literally, you can almost do anything with it. It's God telling the story. You got to remember that, though. The characters are no longer telling the story. In third person omniscient, the narrator is telling the story. That narrator can be a character, by the way. It could be someone who is telling the story to somebody. For example, I could be telling the story, I sat around the campfire with my two nephews, them crackling their hot dogs over the hot burst of fire. And maybe in that moment, it's just limited because I don't know what's going on in my nephews' heads. All right. Each of them preparing comfortably into their on their log, awaiting me. As I prepare to tell them a story. And then now I could tell the story, and now the story could be an omniscient because I am telling the story and it's whatever I want it to be. And I could be making it up. And then we could cut back and forth to scenes where it's limited and scenes where it's omniscient. You could also do where, like in that moment in the campsite, I sat before my two nephews, both heating their hot dogs up at the crackle of the fire, sitting on their logs. I prepared the story in my head, knowing that I wanted to try to scare them as best I could. However, I still want my sister to talk to me. So what should I say? Maybe something that is half true, half made up. What do you kids want to hear today? You want a scary story or a true story? Oh, I want a true story, they said. My youngest nephew screaming at the top of his lungs, a true story, and tell us a true story. And I was like, well, here it is. And then if you do a chapter break into the beginning of the story, now it could turn into third person omniscient, where he goes, oh, they moved around the house dark and uncold, unaware that they would find a body that has been there for several years. That's omniscient. But I'm mixing POVs, and you could think like that. You could think outside the box and play with it. Because when you do a chapter jump, and like maybe what is the narrative style, etc., etc. Like it's the way you present it, it's who's getting the talk, and there's just so much play you could do with that. So when you do it, remember, think about how you want to approach it, why you want to approach it that way, what the characters will be doing to influence the narrative itself, and how you would like to play with the POVs. With that, next video in the series is we're going to be doing a revision exercise where we focus on revising, how to revise, and ways to help you, the author, improve your writing. This exercise will involve revising a previously written scene or story and analyzing it. Well, that should be fun. Which point of view do you find the most challenging to write from, and why? Let me know in the comments below. And if you haven't done so already and you like what you've been watching, please hit the subscribe button and that bell icon so you don't miss out. As always, keep developing the right mindset. I'll see you next time. Bye.